Hey everyone, welcome back to That's Growth Ops. Today we're hanging out with our very own Will Davidson, the guy leading the charge in sales here at Growth. Will, Chris, and I are diving into the evolution of sales for growth, how COVID shook things up, why embracing tech like HubSpot has been a game changer, and the ongoing challenge of balancing authentic human connections with automation. We'll also touch on some behind-the-scenes stories from inbound events, including Will's thoughts on the future of AI in sales, and how staying connected to people is still at the heart of what we do. Let's get into it. Well, welcome back. We've got a really special guest today who brings a diverse background and wealth of experience in both business and sales. He's the director of sales at Growth, where he's been leading the charge for the last 4.5 years, driving growth and building partnerships across industries. Before that, he co-founded a digital billboard company, spent time in the culinary world as a trained chef in New York City, and even worked in his family's real estate investment company. Now, please join me in welcoming Will Davidson, sales leader with a passion for relationship building, personalization, and long-term value.
Oh,
Hey.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for that great intro. It's good to finally be a part of one of these. I've wanted to do this for a while, so I'm pumped to be here with you two and looking forward to the topics of discussion today.
There's no topics, man. This is just hanging out. But
Yeah.
I think people would be surprised to know that we've been friends for many, many years. And
15 to 20, I think, and about 4.8 here at Growth, I think.
thanks,
Seems like
LinkedIn. Yeah, man. Will and I both hail as, Will's like from Orlando. I lived there for a lot of my adult years. And yeah, man, you just always like stood out as someone, even in my early 20s, somebody that was more than willing to walk up, shake hands, introduce themselves. And then you have like a little, maybe it's like a little hint of ADHD, but like something that lets you remember something about them for forever, which I think is just a superpower of archetypes like you. Like, is it exhausting being able to do that, or is that actually a source of your power?
So when you say hint of ADHD, I'll beg to differ and say a lot of ADHD. So I appreciate that, but I mean, it's true. It's, it kind of comes from how I grew up with my dad, especially. He was a people person and loved shaking hands and, meeting people for dinner, drinks, and it wasn't just for like sales. It was to have a conversation and remember those people. So if I meet someone,
I remember your
like
dad,
you,
man. He cast a long shadow.
Oh, I know. I remember that Christmas party. And yeah, I mean, if I come across someone that I meet and have a good conversation with, I'm going to remember something, whether it's an article of clothing or a conversation or whatever it is. And that's
Sports team.
Exactly. So nailed that
really
one.
Cool, man. So you started at Growth, right? And we're a whole different company at the time. I'm like, hey, I need somebody to deal with collecting checks from Guinness and Red Bull and stuff. Can you handle that? You're like, yeah, I'm on it. Then, COVID hits and we're like, oh man, do we light this ship on fire or do we change? We obviously changed. But at no point when we first started working together was something like HubSpot or Kixie or Apollo or just, I'm listing softwares because like that became our universe so quickly. What was that experiencing like, going from handshakes to what we do now?
It was terrifying, because I remember the conversation. I remember that first one where you said, hey, COVID's hitting San Francisco. It's going to hit Florida at some point or another. And I was like, yeah, we're fine. Events got shut down. And I remember that day, like it was yesterday, you saying, what do you know about B2B sales and HubSpot? And I said, absolutely nothing. And you're like, oh boy. Okay, so we need to figure this out. You said, join this boot camp right now. And that's what I did. And, that was kind of like the start of the evolution. It's been a long evolution and it's really still in progress, but that was kind of the beginning. And I remember, being the teacher's pet in Dan Tyer's first boot camp. He was like, hey,
bonus points.
Cold call script. And I was like, I'll do it. And he tore me to shreds in a good way. But that was kind of like the evolution of B2B sales and utilizing HubSpot. And it took a while to utilize modern techniques. Man,
I
it's
just
still evolving, as we all know.
it, it's always evolving, but I think what's interesting is like the highs and lows of being a human first. I feel like for 6 months it's really important, and then everyone's like technology, 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 and then that shit doesn't work. So then they go back to okay, human, human, human plus technology, and it's like a wave. I, that's just my like view. Do you feel the same way, or do you feel like it's always co-piloted human and technology, or what's your take over the like let's say last couple of years of technology needs versus human needs in the sales process?
I mean, it's like a healthy balance because there's been times when I first started where I leaned solely on technology and I got hired because I'm a real human that loves people. And at times I was leveraging just software. It didn't work. You remember that. I'm not going to get into the
Oh,
details during COVID, but it was literally blasting sequences with, robotic outreach. It doesn't work. And then
doesn't work.
over the years, you preach it. You're like, hey, you're a good human. Be that human, share your story, and people will like you. So it's really kind of maintaining that healthy balance.
It's tough.
And I
Yeah,
think
it
you
is
got
tough.
more of that too. Well, what you were just at the AI summit. Did a talk there as well, and you got a real good taste of that being a human part.
What a like first of all, Will's like, oh hey, by the way, I'm gonna live stream a session about AI during inbound, and I was like, what? Like, first of all, where?
With people like
What?
Deepak Chopra and like some big names out there that have been doing this for years and big, huge names. And well, I mean, I don't think I knew exactly what I was getting into. And, I mean, I've been known to get nervous for these kind of engagements. This I love. But being at inbound and just like my post on LinkedIn a few moments ago where I was like, hey, I'm going to find a quiet spot. I'm going to talk about this. I work with Rich and the team on the best way to present things. And within 10 minutes, there's 200 people waiting in line right in front of me as I'm presenting live. Yeah, if you haven't
That's
seen
like
them, I
a
mean, there's gray hairs there and here. So, I mean, it didn't help, but it was fun because I got to share my story. It wasn't like, I'm leading a lecture seminar about statistics or some, business calculus or something like that. It was kind of shooting from the hip and having a conversation, and the feedback was good.
we've got a little bit of your story so far, but like, give us a little bit more. Like, what are some of the things that we haven't talked about already in the last couple of minutes that you shared at the AI conference?
So what I shared was kind of like my evolution from old school to new school. I wouldn't say I'm completely new school. I'm getting there, but I came in. My dad and I were in the billboard business together. We used to cold call. I used to print out prospect sheets off of Yelp. My dad and I would cold call these companies. We would write notes on the sheet of paper, like send email. I would send some one-to-one horrific email. Guy told me to pick rocks, note that on a piece of paper, send contract. We had written
Pick
contracts.
rock. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
And it looked like we had a CPA that would file all of our contracts. And that's how we kind of tracked all the conversations. So that's really where I learned, like being personable or getting in my car and driving to an auto dealership and having a conversation. And
These kids don't even know the struggle of that.
yeah, I mean, and even when I was in the agency field, agency space, the only level of software technology was teamwork. We had no other software. Teamwork didn't help me on a sales perspective, so I was doing the same crap over and over and over. And
I didn't realize
yeah,
you
I mean,
used teamwork.
now you do. Yeah, see, I guess I have a little tech background. That's about it. Really. But I mean, it was really cool kind of to see like especially in the billboard space where I had to beg my dad to let us invest in building a website. And that was like the big win right there. So we got a website, but he would still get copies of the yellow pages delivered to our house. And he would go in there, law firms, auto dealerships, whatever, and just call people.
I love it.
Yeah,
The
it's
ones that had the
nice.
big ads and yellow pages though do seem to be like great, but like like a target buyer. Like, hey, if you're willing to buy a big old ad and a
Exactly.
big yellow book, buy one on I-95. That's one of the highways in Orlando. I don't
Yeah,
losing my
94,
mind.
95, whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 95 isn't in Orlando.
95 is
I-4 is.
downstate. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey man,
Anyways,
it's been a minute, dude. It's not my city anymore.
a little rusty, but yeah, we'll get you back soon.
I'll be back at I guess this wasn't the right time to say it, but like I haven't told Katrina yet. November 7th. She doesn't listen to this shit. November 7th, for Full Sail for the advisory council for the Masters of Marketing program, which is also doing a lot of AI stuff, which is pretty neat.
That's
That's
good.
awesome. Have you ever shared your story about last time you were at Full Sail? We'll save that for
No,
another
well,
conversation.
I haven't. I'm assuming.
Oh,
you're
hold
referring
on.
to
Hold on.
my first time using a Tesla. I'll
Sorry about that.
make it quick. So it's an all day thing, right? So, and it's in Florida. It's hot. I don't do well with hot. I get to Full Sail University. I park this Tesla. I'm super stoked. It does everything on its own, right? So I park it, essentially work all day, and this advisory council come out, and I'm like, oh my God, my battery's dead. I can't get this car to open. I call Hertz. Hey, this is a big deal. I need help. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll send a vehicle to you right away, but it's going to be an hour. As soon as she says that, it starts pouring. Like for anybody that hasn't been in Florida, like monsoon weather pouring. So now I'm drenched with a dead Tesla. So I think about 35 minutes into this phone call, and then she's like, hey, it actually seems like you have a fully charged battery. I was like, okay, well, I can't get into the car. So Teslas, we all know probably now, have a little tab. You tap it on the door's open. Needless to say, I finally got into the car. Nothing was wrong. Thanks, Will.
I love it.
Oh my God, adult protection lock on this thing. Crazy.
Great ideas, lack of knowledge on technology. There we go.
Just insane. What are you going to do? Anyway, moving on. Thanks, Will. You got me distracted.
So you both were just in Boston for Inbound.
We were.
Well, you were a LinkedIn, or was it LinkedIn correspondent? Is that how they phrased it?
It was inbound correspondent. So
Inbound correspondent.
you had to apply to, share a lot of the takeaways, content, daily sessions, capture content, post on different channels. And yeah, I remember last year being there and seeing all the correspondence. I was like, I would love to be one of those because a lot of them are thought leaders in the HubSpot ecosystem. And I applied this year. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to get accepted. And they go, congratulations, Mr. Davidson, you've been accepted. So
maybe it's an inclusion thing. Like they're like, okay, let's get the old guy in here.
Yeah, let's get an old school guy in there with all the tech leaders in space. So, but it was a blast. I mean, I'm heavy on the LinkedIn side, as is Chris, and it was just fun to go around, see a lot of software partners that we know personally, meet new ones, capture sessions. Chris and I got a chance to hear from Ryan and Reynolds at the tail end of Inbound, which is great. But it was just it was really cool to just kind of be at the forefront and share a lot of the cool stuff that was going on. So
that was probably the only time you and I actually sat together that whole week, though, right? Like, was the Ryan Reynolds closing conversation?
Yeah, last year you and I were attached at the hip, literally, and then this year, I kind of developed that level of comfort, knew a lot of people, and knew what I was there to do. So I mean, I'm lucky to have you where you're like, hey, just do your thing, and you know what you're here to do, get it done, and that's what we did.
I didn't even think about it. I did spend a lot of time by myself at Inbound, when I wasn't meeting with people, I wasn't riding with a posse. There's definitely a lot of orgs that seem to intentfully have the purpose of walking around with a crew, as if that's I don't know, makes them more legit. But it seems like a waste. You guys are
Too
all
legit.
Yeah, you guys are all great. People know we work together. I can be by myself. I'm a full-grown adult now that I cut my hair and I'm getting married. So yeah, it's an interesting take. What was one of you got to hang out with Alec? I feel like that was a very, I want to say cute moment, but it's cute. It's oh, you guys don't need me anymore. You guys have each other. What was that
No,
like?
it was a blast, you know, and I've known Alex for what 3 to 4 months at this point, but it was kind of cool to see someone that, you know, we've shared similar roles. He has a lot more experience on the tech side, the HubSpot side, and it's different. And, you know, at first, I mean, you're going to be nervous the first time you meet someone, whether you work together or not in person. And him and I just kind of clicked. And it's always good to have a partner in crime, whether you're at an expo, convention, networking events. And it was kind of just cool to work the floor with him, have conversations, generate leads, and
Hey,
kind of
You do
utilize the,
that?
yeah, it was kind of like the old school to new school, even though I am not that old. But it was just kind of just cool to talk to people, Kyle Jepson, a lot of the legends of the space, and yeah, he's definitely a major asset, and him and I worked very well together.
yeah,
So
it was super cool. I think the one thing I didn't get to do during inbound was see Kyle Jepson. There was a moment on Friday I was like, "Hey, that's my window. I got to say." Then I got distracted and I didn't. So Kyle showed
so
up there.
so so that means that you did not complete the growth bingo board, so you didn't
Correct.
win.
I
Yeah.
did not win. Also, like that seemed, man, we got some catching up to do. Poor Katrina got COVID. She's back on, feeling alive today, which is really nice. That's like a unfortunate side effect of many humans piling into a convention space together. Is that can happen? It did, but we've kind of kicked around the idea. I really love this inbound bingo card idea. And for next year, giving people access to download it and having some like classic Chris marketing ideas behind it. You know, like for anybody that fills it out and it
Uh-oh.
gets processed, they win, flight, VIP ticket, the whole nine, maybe even a lunch with Chris, something like that.
Ooh, lunch with
I think
Chris. I
you'll
like
see
that one.
I think you'll see the inbound bingo card show up in a big way in 2025. And super pumped that inbound is going to be in San Francisco. Like Will and I have had a few awesome work trips to the city that I love so much. Um, what
Work.
do you think about San Francisco? Well, like, yeah, they were work. Growth paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was cool to take a step back. We were talking like the whole bingo idea, and it's cool to see like our team. Our team has a lot of like front-facing people persons on the team. You know, there's a
Yep.
lot of companies out there where it's like, hey, there's Chris and Will and Alec, and no one else likes to talk to people. Everyone on our team loves having conversations, so it was really cool to see that. Like Nathan, I think Nathan crushed the bingo board within like 2 hours. So that was,
How popular Nathan is in the HubSpot ecosystem. Shout out Nathan
yeah,
Gifford.
that was big. That was wild. But yeah, San Francisco, as soon as that announcement came down, like Yamini was up there and she's like, I have a huge announcement. And Chris was like slapping my leg, like crossing his fingers. And she goes, next year, we're taking inbound on the road. And he literally almost jumped out of his chair. So I think it's going to be
True.
really cool to, transition over there. And, another massive tech city. A lot of HubSpotters live on the West Coast. As Chris says, best coast. And I think it's going to be a nice change of pace. And I know Chris has some major things up his sleeve that he hasn't shared yet, but stay tuned.
They're not major yet. I've got ideas for days, but no execution yet. I did chat with Kixie earlier today about like a client need, and I was like, hey, because they're in Santa Monica, I think.
Mhm.
But I was like, hey, man, with stuff happening in San Francisco, we might need to do like a sales focused boiler room type event. Because I love that inbound is so marketing, but so much. There's still such a massive gap between marketing and sales and customer service that I feel like sales needs to show up a little bit more forward in a sales type way at inbound. I think that would be helpful. So if we can be a catalyst for that, let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a mention I heard. I think Alec and I heard it in a conversation with someone we're meeting with next week. And they even mentioned how marketing focused they felt like inbound was. And for people that haven't been inbound, I mean, it definitely still is a lot more marketing forward unless you know a lot of the sessions in advance or know a lot of the partners out there. But I think kind of having that healthy balance. And I think maybe some of those ideas that you came up with at Asilomar a few years back, could maybe kind of bridge that gap with sales and marketing on that side. So
It sounds like there's resources available there's companies that want to do an on-site activation, and we know that people like sales is a hard topic. We know that like marketers and salespeople tend to be like just different people, like entirely different. So like Asilomar is this beautiful place in Pacific Grove, like maybe a half mile from our office out here. And it's like, it was made in the 30s. Really cool, like wilderness retreat. First female engineer to build something like this. It's epic. But Will and I had kicked around an idea a few years ago, and it keeps popping up, of having a 2 or 3 or 4 day thing that mixes sales and technology, but also like the intrinsic like personal health you have to do to be really good at that job. You know what I mean? Like keeping the brain straight, like not dipping into some of the easy like ways to feel better quickly, like we all use probably in an unhealthy way at some point in our lives. So TBD GrowthCon 2025. Listen, Will, this hits every topic. You got to listen to the rest of these episodes. They go all over the place.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, one thing I remember I was talking about that walking through to Solmar, 2.5, 3 years ago, whenever it was, and we were talking about how disjointed, like people talk about sales and marketing alignment every single day. I'd say 70% of the people are kind of like, it's all BS. They don't know what it is and how to fix it. And I think that's kind of with my role, how it's evolved over time, even though I'm kind of like the growth ambassador, so I like getting out there, because I'm working with the marketing team each and every day. And I'm working with the sales team, having the conversations with you and Alec and the rest of the team each and every day, instead of like a monthly, summit between sales and marketing alignment. That's not going to fix anything. And I think that's where, a lot of companies are really starting to fall. They're not understanding what it is and how to fix it. And it's frustrating to see on LinkedIn and online every day, but I mean, that's kind of the role I've evolved into, and I freaking love it.
It's kind of cool that you mentioned that. Rich and I were in like a webinar that DataBox put on today around the sales and marketing alignment survey that I've been pumping out and interviewing people on. And it's interesting because I think you may have accidentally, or you're just insanely clever. Like speaking to a topic that is still red hot, which is like sales and marketing alignment. And it's like, hey,
thank you.
You can't make it a quarterly meeting initiative to align two groups of people. Like especially when you're aggressively placing the wall between them. So we definitely don't have it all figured out. And I know that, but I'm happy to see that you be a new type of bridge with this marketing and sales need, because there's just different targets, different outcomes, different language, and it's hard to find a way to fix all that, which is why almost everybody has a sales and marketing alignment problem.
Sure.
Who knew? Will's the sales and marketing alignment superhero we needed.
New title on Monday. There it is.
Great. No, I mean, the live audience is obviously listening and clapping. Thank you.
Yep.
That was wonderful. Oh, so we haven't talked about yet? Is this the first recording with his sweet ass hair? On this yet or what?
Oh, with your sweet ass hair? Yeah. This is last recording you had the Jesus hair, and now you got the Chris Hemsworth hair.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep the compliments coming, Bill. Of all the technologies you've used, Will, real quick, what's your least favorite of all of them, straight up?
So there was a short period of time where I was using Asana as a salesperson. It's an absolutely amazing software. I think Chris and I both, Chris evolved in the Asana space, but there's a time when him and I were both kind of tasked with working heavily in Asana. And it was just between HubSpot, and this is 2-3 years ago, HubSpot has evolved exponentially over the years, but we were working in both platforms. And we used to get daily phone calls, meetings, and Slack messages saying, you haven't updated anything in Asana in who knows how long. And I think that was the main thing. It's kind of like timers and things like that, because a lot of sales people kind of work off the cuff. And not to go long-winded, I would say Asana, even though it's a great platform. Not for OG sales guys like myself, though.
Oh,
man,
Chris,
you are
muted.
mute. Friday
he muted
mute
himself. Look at this. Oh boy.
that was perfectly accidental. With salespeople, one of the big struggles, right, is putting the work inside the CRM, because especially the more we're talking about, like with HubSpot's Breeze, which we haven't even touched on yet, in order for you to leverage these software tools, it relies on data and actions. But if you don't put them in the system, you can't use the system. So how do you help people understand or slow down or whatever to take the time to do the software work in the sales work? What has that experience been like? Like,
It's
how
kind
do
of
you
a,
get yourself to use it?
I mean, because I've seen the evolution of the benefits over the years. When I first started, when I was doing, adding, lead properties or life cycle stages. Yeah. I mean, we all know I was guilty of not updating things in real time. And when it comes to, working with a larger company, those numbers are pretty freaking important, especially to the higher ups. And, I think I talk to a lot of salespeople. I talk to more salespeople than marketing people just because we have that in common. And it's kind of like sharing my story of if I can do it, anyone can do it without making yourself look stupid. But I mean, it's pretty damn important. And I mean, that's the biggest thing. You're investing in software. You need to utilize it. And we all know salespeople are the the most apprehensive to embrace any modern tools. Like this guy. So I think, I really, with some coaching, some hard nudging from, you, Katrina, I really learned the benefits of how HubSpot and other tools can help. And that's the story I share with other people.
I always say performance measured is performance improved, right?
Amen. That's pretty much my quote, honestly.
And what I'll piggyback off of what you're saying, Will, and how that applies is by putting that information in, you're able to actually see where you are. It's like the map, right? You know where you start, you know where your goal is, but by putting that information, you know how far on this journey you are and how much you got to put in still. And I think that that's important and a missing for most people. Looking back to my DBA and solutions architect days, the CRM is only as good as the information in it. So,
yeah. And I can't remember, someone from LinkedIn from Arrows was talking about, when you're a young CRM implementation specialist, of course you're going to lean on the back that everything needs to be perfect. And then that ends up kind of creating, right? And created a kind of a toxic environment for like startups and new people that are getting into CRM usage, where realistically, you're not going to get it all right all the time, and start using it at any level so you can get more and more comfortable. That's how you really adopt a CRM. You don't create this, 3,000 page rule book and say day one, you have to follow every rule. It's like, okay, start getting some healthy habits, build them, grow them. Will some data cleanup need to happen at some time? Yes, probably, but way less than if just everyone pretends to use it for a few months and no one actually does. So shout out to whomever you were from Arrows. Yeah. You were right in my
you won't even know what data to clean up if you're not putting it in, right? So
many.
Yeah, and one thing to add on that, when I first started growth and utilizing HubSpot, I used it solely for sequences and deal pipeline, and that was it. I had no idea how to really look through the reporting and really analyze it. And I've worked with Katrina over the years, and Rich. I mean, when we first started working together, you shared a lot of, when you're working towards a specific goal, whether it's revenue or lead related, it's like this is where you're at. These are your leads, your deals. This is the average value. Forecasting, if you don't hit quota, this is what you need to do to make up for it next month, etc. I'm no mathematician. We all know that, but that was a big evolution right there. And I think a lot of sales guys, once they see that, they're like, oh shit, I'm behind numbers. This is what I need to do next month to make up for it. Sell 2 of these or 3 of those or whatever. That's where I think the sales adoption is going to increase exponentially.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, you named it though. Like selling the value is a little tricky, and maybe companies like ours and leaders like you and I can do a better job of like what's in it for you, the individual user. I know when you said that, I was like, my initial thought was like, I don't do that enough. I'm just like, this is how it works in the company, and I think that's a really good point. Probably something that you bring up more often than I hear. What are the individual benefits? You know where you are in the mountain, and you know what you need to do to get to the top and hit those quota goals and hit President's Club or whatever it is on your, ideal outcome graph.
I like that one. I think he's made that one up. I like that.
Thank you. I did. Yeah. Empty coffee cup.
So you touched on it a few minutes ago, Chris. Breeze, big, huge conversation. Breeze AI with Copilot agents, lots of little hidden features in there. Breeze Intelligence, buyer intent, enrichment. What are you guys most excited about out of that plethora of new
for me,
fun?
Data enrichment, hands down. And I love the prospecting. Like, I love what has been demoed for prospecting. I don't have access to the beta. Again, HubSpot, please fix that.
Hurry up.
Sooner than later, preferably this weekend, so I can throw it in the trash can. Just play with the prospecting tool the whole time. But, to me, AI and HubSpot, these things are like just such huge concepts that it really, I'm learning it can be so confusing if you're not deep in the trenches of even knowing what this stuff is. So I've kind of like tried to break down the individual elements. And why I think prospecting is so helpful is if you can use technology to say, these are the companies that are working well. We can see this in the CRM. We're defining that as not churning. The NPS score is high. Tell me what some of the attributes are that are similar, and then use the same technology to build out some of the list based around that. Then you can find the people at the companies, and then you can reach out to them with other things that are connected to your CRM. I would love to see the people at Growth and the clients that we work for train and hire the people that can critically think to target similar great fit clients and empower them to do that initial outreach. I just think that it makes the whole flywheel, the whole conversation, it's like a gap that has been needing to be filled. And I am very much for it. So that's the longest story short, is your BDRs can live inside the software and reach out to the right people at the right companies, which was like, just gave me a flashback, Will, to that old video we used to have.
I know. Yeah, the right people, the right message at the right time, I think it was. You actually filmed it right here.
Yeah. It's a thing. But it is still a lot. And yeah, there's just so many things that are required, like having a website that is able to track the information and supply information to your HubSpot, so that way Breeze can pick it up. Making sure that you're doing inbound best practices, you have content being created consistently, and you're doing it in a way where the internet gods can reward you for it. Having outbound plays, having an active LinkedIn. I mean, there are a million things going on for companies that grow. So Breeze will not be the quick click a button and your company will grow tool. It will enable companies that are already and continue to invest in data-based practice so everybody can get measured and grow, as Rich has stolen from me. But I think if ABM was any tell about how to take something that is fundamentally game-changing, how slow people are to adapt to really using it the right way. Yeah. That's the lesson I've gained out of our ABM push the last couple of years is Breeze. We know Breeze is great. We'll know how to use it and we'll be able to implement it. But the time it takes for companies to appreciate this change and to be willing to talk about it, much less adopt it, I think it's going to be a trickling over the next couple of years effect.
Well, yeah. I remember when HubSpot Insights first came out in the CRM, and how clients I was dealing with, like they would see a form submission, then all of a sudden they'd have all this information on who that person was. And they're like, how did that happen? I'm like, it's just magic. It's called enrichment. It's great. Woo! But now being able to take that a step further due to the Clearbit acquisition, being rebranded Breeze Intelligence, just what you and I were playing with on the weekend, I see it as an ability to also cut down on tech stack and utilize the tools across the board, and give people a leg up, because now it's right there. They can enrich that information. They can know that this person who came in through inbound or even just through outbound, they can know if this is the right person to even be talking to.
Yeah.
Rich, that's a good point because when I was at Inbound, Alec and I actually did a demo. Like, we demo all the different breed capabilities, and while it's very exciting, a big takeaway that Alec and I both had, I agree with you on, consolidating the tech stack. It was on the prospecting side. A lot of companies that are going to have access to this at some point need to understand exactly how to use it. Because with
Yeah.
the prospecting, I mean, as soon as I saw at some point they're going to have like fully autonomous like outreach, that scares the hell out of me. Like the semi-autonomous where you can approve any kind of messaging. A lot of companies that are going to have access, they're going to start blasting outreach and they don't understand how to utilize it. So finding people that understand the capabilities and can really work with them on how to use it is going to be a big piece.
Yeah, I think that's important. And you know what? For those companies that are going to jump on and just blast, they're going to lose out to the companies that
Don't call me.
Grab a custodian of growth is what I'll call it.
Yeah.
Somebody that can teach them the best practices, put it in place, have some sense of guardrail there to understand how it's going to flow and what the impact of each decision is going to be.
Cool.
I love a shiny new toy, but there's a reason there's child safety locks on some of these things.
Maybe that's why they haven't given me access to the prospecting data.
There it is.
Don't give Chris. I have no problem sending out
Chris will
emails.
break it.
Chris is child-proof out of HubSpot's new tools.
Oh my god! Prospecting tool lifted, no longer in use. Chris broke it. But, before, I don't know. I again, just the lesson I learned from ABM when I found that at Inbound too, and was just like, man, I can't believe this like technology exists to allow us to do outbound. I was an inbounder for so long, like I couldn't believe it. And then I figured because of my status of having so many years in the marketing game that it would be easier for me to say, hey, I'm telling you, this is fundamentally like the inverse mirror of what old marketing is. Why are you not doing this? I thought that message was going to be grabbed faster. Then, of course, we did our own unique take on how to service it and implement it. The big lesson I learned there was kind of what I just said about Breeze. This is cool. It is a big innovation. But for our customers that are tenured and that have been successful for 10, 20, 30, 75, 100 years, cool. We've heard these things. Every couple of years, there's a new tool. I get that. But it's not every year that a new tool comes along and does actually change your business and improve it. So hopefully we can do a different job sharing that information with the universe.
Yeah.
TBD.
TBD. Well, speaking of TBD, you've cooked up a cohort of sorts, a first iteration. You want to share with the audience what that's all about?
Yeah, so I wish I would have done this when I was first building out my ABM services for growth. Essentially, I know that there's a lot to learn about HubSpot's Breeze. I know that how you use it is going to vary based off of industry and company size. And so we have been very fortunate to create a large universe of different types of customers that we work with. So my idea was, if I'm going to create a new service, I want to make sure that the service is something that people want and that would be valuable. And since I don't, it's just me, I can work all day, every day. I figured I'd invite some of our current customers and then some I haven't met yet, as long as they have a couple of pro or enterprise hubs. I'll run a 4-series workshops where I'll do a bunch of homework, make sure that the first one is let's evaluate everybody's hubs. We can share notes. Let's talk about the different functions of Breeze. And then for the people that are like, yes, let's have me be the guinea pig for doing a full enrichment. I want to do partial enrichment. We're going to just start there and start with enriching the data, and then leveraging the data, signing up for the content agent, whatever's open, and then do that as a series of 4. And then we can provide HubSpot some really good feedback on what the experience was like. And then hopefully I can then create a workshop and ongoing service around HubSpot Breeze that companies actually want. Because who am I to say what is going to help them? I want to get real-time feedback. And the only way I know to make it a fair trade is to not charge for it.
That's give before the get. You taught me that.
Yep.
That's what it is.
And by the way, I mean, you were sitting there with me on Saturday after being tired from inbound, and we were poring over documents, and you're like, wouldn't it be crazy if? That's when I know I'm going to have a long week.
Sorry. Start there. My bad. Yeah, man. Like it just felt like the thing that I got from inbound, and you get the chance to like meet with some HubSpot executives, which I find to be like really empowering, and other HubSpot partners. And the initial reaction, I think, to most service people that do a lot of marketing services is like, oh man, what are we going to do now? Which is weird. I just have never intrinsically thought that way. As soon as we like got the information about Breeze, I was like, I know exactly how we're going to help customers with this. This is a entirely new thing. We have to help them understand what it is, how to leverage it, and then let them leverage it. Like, I'm not trying to hold their hand. And to me, that it equates a very simple, scalable service offering. And with Rich, like, let's be honest here, like we've got a insane AI marketing ops person, and he does not exist in many universes. So what better way to like flex this magnificent superpower in the HubSpot ecosystem than to use Breeze with them? So I'm going to do the leg work in the beginning, but I anticipate Rich will end up being the person who's curating this service over time. TBD though, but I think it would make sense.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, that's news. All right.
Yeah. So there's welcome to my world again. Will, you've been in it a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I did steal half of Rich's Saturday though.
Hey,
I did see that.
First, I was like, man, I'm so tired. And then they're like, Ryan Reynolds is coming up. I'm like, I'm excited. Then she's like, Inbound's going to be in San Francisco. And I ignored the first 3 minutes of Ryan Reynolds' speech, honestly. I was just like, oh my God, San Francisco. I can't wait. It was awesome.
I mean, what does a Canadian have to say anyways of value, right?
So you guys are okay, but you always want to ignore the first couple of minutes of when they start talking. That's what I've learned. Wait till minute 4.
Now I understand to change where I'm saying important information so Chris hears it.
There it is.
Exactly. It's also like, time zones, right? So it's my fault. I take the heat on that.
That's all good.
What are you looking? Can I ask Will, since he's here? I get to talk to you every week, Rich, and Will, this is recorded for legal purposes.
Fine.
Where do you want to see? How can you help people? What are you excited about for the rest of 2024 and into 2025? Like what is Will going to do to make Will happy?
I think, without going too deep into like the evolution of my role here at Growth, is continue to get out there. My role changing has allowed me to get out there and, be a lot more involved, like, philanthropy, community, things like that, which I've always loved. Like for the longest time, it was like I have to be in the office all day, staring at a computer. Now I get to go out and meet people, but, give back. And I think that's a big win for me. A lot of companies out there, people think that you only do that just to get something back in return, which is not the way to look at it. I love giving back. The Ronald McDonald House cooking for a lot of people. That was fun. That was interesting. But, joining good communities, charities, attending more events, increasing, the speaking engagement last week was a big motivator for me. The first one is always the hardest, and it was. So it's really kind of just getting my word out there and what growth is all about. And yeah, that's where I see my role evolving this year going to next year. Getting out there, doing more events.
I love it, man. I'm thrilled you touched on charity and just like community, because I don't think enough people even talk about that being a priority for them. It changes you as a person when you can like give in that kind of way.
Yeah, a lot of big corporations just kind of allocate a massive budget. They just do it just to do it. It's not like it's not in their hearts. And I think that it makes you feel good, but everyone should be doing that. And I know you've touched on it a lot over the years. Outside of just like building people's skill sets and networks, it's like, hey, if you want to go do an event and give back, you can do it.
Called when we went on one of my Orlando trips when we went and did the lake something cleanup. We had kayaks and we were out there with like bags of trash, like pulling garbage out of this lake near downtown Orlando. It was disgusting, but it was also like a
it was a
very
blast.
fun bonding time. Paddle
Yeah,
for a
right.
purpose, I think is what it was called.
Yep. Yeah, so the T-shirt.
Yes. Do good,
Yeah,
people.
Yeah,
Help out.
do
Take a
more
little
good
time.
people.
Take a little time. Feed some people. Say hello. Sometimes just a hello, making eye contact can sometimes help somebody on a bad day. You never know.
Sure.
That's awesome. So,
Very nice.
what typical fashion as we leave this episode, places you can find us, check out the Redwood Grove community. Links are in the description. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, YouTube. We'll also leave a link to the Breeze AI cohort in the show description as well for you. Check it out because it's free. You just got to give your time.
And firstborn and blood type, and I need your social security number.
100%. So in typical fashion, though, Will, you are obviously new to the show and might not have heard what we do to some of the guests as what we do. What is the
Confetti
last thing
cannon.
on your what's the last song on your Spotify that you listen to?
Ooh,
No, we want the real deal.
Yeah.
can't pull it up, but me being a New Orleans Saints fan, it was Choppa Style. It's a very aggressive rapper from the 504. So I was listening to that before the Saints game last Sunday. Well, they also lost. So, but I love some good hip hop, and I like some Southern rap as well. Chris knows that.
Nicely done. Chris, what's on your playlist?
I pulled it up just for like authenticity. Ugly Boy by D. Antwood. South African rap group that are also very aggressive. They've got a bio film on Amazon Prime, which is really good.
I saw you guys posting about that in Growth Grooves. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. For me, I got Crooked the Road by Monrovia.
I haven't heard of them either.
It's like some country shit. I'm in cowboy country, so you know.
Hey, I'm just happy that you got at. Not happy that your beautiful daughter did a great job of curating your Spotify for a while, and I'm sorry that you've had to get out of that habit.
Yeah, it's
probably specifically because of the show question.
Yeah, I've had to take my phone back for car rides. So
Smart move.
Nothing like a little NSYNC and wake you up in the morning sung by some trolls.
Nice.
That sounds cute, but I'm glad I don't have to hear that.
Yeah. Cool. Will, do you want to leave us with some words of wisdom from the great Will Davidson?
No, it's been a blast to join you two amazing gentlemen, and we talked about a lot of fun stuff. The future is bright for all of us, and I'm looking forward to joining not the next one, but maybe another event. Down the road. I love sharing my story. I love working with a team like you guys and the rest of the amazing humans, as Chris calls us, humans, good humans. And that's all I got. So thanks for having me.
Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
LinkedIn, Will Davidson, William Davidson 07.
Got it. We'll put that in the show notes as well, so you guys can get connected with Will. Will, thanks so much for being here. And Chris, stay classy.
I'll do my best.